Hello, welcome to the video to where we're discussing book 3 of Heaven Official's Blessing. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. We are going over all of the books in the Heaven Official's Blessing series. That is 8 books, and this one is completely dedicated to book 3, and we're just gonna jump right into it. So this one, like the last one, is split into 2 different parts. The first one is talking about 𝔽𝕚𝕟𝕕 after his ascension and dealing with different kind of disasters that is happening within his kingdom, and he really can't do much as a martial god, and so he's kind of dealing with trying to help but not really helping in the end. And then the second part is jumping back into the present where most of the series is taking place. So to start off with, we see part of his kingdom suffering from a drought. And so obviously people are upset, people are dying from it. And so what does he try and do? He tries to bring rain from different places, traveling, I don't know how many miles it said, and bringing rain with the help of the rain god's hat, who he was so lucky to have been able to borrow. But that is a lot for a god of his standard. He's a martial god, like I said, not any kind of water god. So this takes a lot out of him. And while he's doing all this, a lot of prayers and concerns are piling up in his shrines. And so he can't keep doing this. So what does he do? He goes to his dad, the king, and is like, why is this happening? One of the most frustrating moments to read is him coming to his dad with his concerns, and his dad yelling at him, "You know nothing, you were raised like a princess, don't talk politics to me." It was so infuriating because, like, who raised him? Who avoided talking about politics and how to be a leader in a time of crisis? It obviously wasn't you, so who was going to do that? So that was very frustrating to read. I was very unhappy with his father. I get you're going through a crisis, but why didn't you teach your son this beforehand? So that was super annoying. So they don't have a great relationship. Shocking. But his mom kind of tries to talk sense into him, and she's like, this is your father. I've seen him as a king, and he's trying his best. So what does he do? He doesn't go back to the heavens and just leave it be. No, he, let's see, starts stuff. So he already lets his entire kingdom see that he is there. He has descended to the mortal realm that he wasn't supposed to do. He was told not to, but he basically told the heavens, kiss my ass, I'm doing it anyway. And now everyone in the kingdom inside this area believes they are fighting on the side of God. So they believe they have the moral high ground, and the people who are coming, the refugees who are just trying to live, are now going against this army every time they're saying, we need more food, like, why aren't you giving us land, why have you shunned us? Because they were basically shoved out once the nobility class deemed them too annoying to deal with. So already this is not going great. This entire part is 𝔽𝕚𝕟𝕕 seeing what actual war and disparity looks like. And so this is very much a learning moment for him. And one of the main parts that you start to key into is when his cousin gets kidnapped, because 𝔽𝕚𝕟 loves to never lay low. He always must be the center of attention. He ends up getting kidnapped by the enemy, essentially. And so it leads to 𝔽𝕚𝕟 having to go and find him. He is rescued. He is helped by a young soldier. Who is it? Shocking. It's Hua-Chang as a child. And essentially he is forced to go through these different trials formed by the Flower Yao, who have paired with the enemy and have basically decided to trap 𝔽𝕚𝕟 in order for the others to kill him, or at least derive him of purity, which is used for his cultivation practices. So all of that seems to be a really big moment. It shows how passionate 𝔽𝕚𝕟 is with his cultivation methods, and how he still is trying to see the good in people, and he's still trying to help both sides, because while all this is going on, he is still lugging water back and forth. So once that is over, and I also want to note, when going back and looking through this again for this video along with my notes, I noticed that he tells the young soldier, "You are great with the sword, but would be even better with a saber." And he's saying this to the child version of Hua-Chang, who now carries a saber as his, like, primary weapon. It's his signature weapon. There's so much foreshadowing in this that I do not catch on my first read through, and I just love how deep this story goes. It's so much more than I anticipated that I would have ever asked for. It is amazing. So after that, it's basically Xilan just going through a bunch of hardships, and not long after he deals with the flower Yao, he has to deal with the fact that his kingdom is getting an outbreak of this terrible disease called human face disease, and it's what it sounds like. Human faces grow on their faces and they die of, I'm not sure how they actually die, but basically it's a very rapidly spreading disease, and come to find out, this is because he was trying to save people that shouldn't have been saved. He was changing fate, which he was told not to, and so he's basically told, this is what happens when you mess with fate, and this is happening because of all the people that have died. So there's nothing he can do, and so destined to watch his kingdom burn and fall. And as a martial god who is descended and was told he would help his people seeing this destruction, this suffering, turn against him. They stop worshiping him, they burn his temples. No matter what he does, there's also word spreads thanks to Qirong and his loudmouth that he knows a cure to this, and he doesn't. He knows the reason and how to spread it. So that certainly doesn't help his cause for trying to get people to like him. So this section ends with the child version of Hua-Chang going to one of Xilan's shrines that are still remaining, and basically proceeds to say he will never forget him, he will always be his god. And we get to see once again the effects that Xilan has had on this child and why he is so obsessed, infatuated, and protective over Xilan now in the present. Then we jump back to the present. So one of the big things that happens in this book is the gods go about this mid-autumn festival, and so essentially it's a competition between the gods to see who gets more of these giant lanterns basically proclaimed to them. And so obviously some of them know more than others, they get more. Of course, the god of wealth and water gets a bunch, but it turns out Xilan, who was, said to get nothing because he doesn't have any shrines of his own, gets the most. And who is to thank for that but Hua-Chang, who has, we find out later, created the temple of the Thousand Lights temple in Ghost City. He's basically revamped this place and proclaimed it his temple, and gets so many lanterns that it creates a huge wave of lanterns in the heavens. And it's such a pretty scene when you watch like the pictures and everything, when you look at the pictures. And so the next arc begins basically when he returns, in the form of Xilan having to figure out what's wrong with this man's wife who's pregnant, but she's like needing an exorcism. And so he goes in and he essentially banishes a spirit, and they're just like, "Where's my baby?" And it's just like, oh, this is the fetus spirit that was back from book 1 that kept calling out to Xilan. He's just like, yeah, it ate your baby. And so in order to stop this thing from, doing this again, he disguises himself as a woman. He pretends to be one of the concubines that's pregnant in the house, and the next arc really gets going, and he fights this annoying, pesky fetus spirit, which is super powerful, and ends up in the water, almost drowning. He's like, what can I do? And his plan is to let the spirit in, open his mouth so the spirit is in him, and then swallow his sword. and kill it. But no, and this is also where we get the cover scene, because if you didn't know, all of the scenes on the book refer to actual really important scenes that happen inside the story. So this is proclaiming, instead of him doing that, 𝔽𝕨 shows up, and instead of having 𝔽𝕨 sacrifice his body and shove a sword down his throat, he just has his silver butterflies take down the spirit. It doesn't kill it. They put it in a jar and take it back to Ghost City, because that's somehow where he ends up, back in Ghost City. And there's a whole lot of stuff that happens in between them getting there, and read it on your own. I thought it was great. It was funny to me. I should stop doing that right next to the mic. But then shit hits the fan. They get back. They go. He shows 𝔽𝕨 the temple. Please stay. Okay. He shows the temple. One of the cutest scenes in this entire thing starts happening, and it's when 𝔽𝕨 starts to teach 𝔽𝕨 how to write. I love that. I find that so cute and domestic. And then, shocking, the mansion is on fire for a second time in the series. And what do you know? The spirit fetus is gone. And so the only way that it can leave is if the original owner has taken possession of it again. So now they're looking for the mother of this fetus spirit, and they find it. They find the person. She's there, and she's taken back to the heavens, and they're trying to figure out this spirit is so powerful. It has to have a divine, like, parentship. Someone here has to be the father. And so she starts pointing and goes, you're the father, to 𝔽𝕨. And it's the funniest thing, if you know, because the entire shtick for him is he has to be pure for his cultivation methods. So obviously it's not him. Then she starts pointing at everyone in there, and everyone's being like, no, it's not me, you're not my type, blah blah blah. And she ends with pointing to 𝕚𝕟, who is a female martial god, but takes the presence of a male martial god in order to have heightened powers. Very similar to the Wind Master, but opposite. And so no one can tell who the father is. Obviously no one's gonna step up and admit that. So she's taken away. And for a while, I didn't think that this was gonna get touched on again, but it does get touched on in the next book, which I'm very happy about, because I would have hated for that to be a loose end. And one of the things that I realized I missed when talking about book 2 in my last video was at the end, back in the present, 𝔽𝕨 finds 𝕨𝕉. He has taken control of a mortal's body and has destroyed the corpse of his mother and is just screwing with him nonstop. So he takes him and the human child, who's the child of the body that he's possessing, and takes him back to his shrine that he has turned into his little house. And so with this, it continues. He's just kind of chained up. He can't figure out how to get the 𝕨𝕉's spirit out of the body, and so he's basically stuck there for now. And shocking, he's stuck there for a long time. And so all this is happening. He's just trying to live his life. This is more of like a slice of life section in it, because they're not dealing with a big battle right now. And so then all of a sudden he's attacked by this thing, and he slices it away, and turns out it's 𝕚𝕟, you know, 𝔽𝕨's cute little saber. And once again, this is the cutest weapon that I've ever seen, because he goes and it's trembling, and he's like, oh, are you hurt? I'm so sorry, I didn't know it was you. To a weapon. I can't state this more clearly enough. This is the only story that I've been actually emotionally touched by a weapon. And so shocking, 𝔽𝕨's with 𝕚𝕟, and so they are there. He's like, oh, you said you were going to visit Ghost City, why don't I just come visit you instead? And so there he is. So then with Hua-Chung just showing up and being like, I'm just gonna show up, you don't have to come to Ghost City. He like helps him make dinner. It's very domestic. We're back to slice of life again, out of the whole ghost baby thing. And then we get like another super cute scene, and it's literally emming Hua-Chung's spiritual weapon and Rou-Yu, Shilan's spiritual weapon, like a wrap that can do whatever he wants. Them kind of battling and trying to show off to each other while cooking and chopping vegetables and stuff. And I find that it was just a really cute moment, just very unserious. And I think that's why I like this series. It balances the serious and the non-serious very well. And so obviously the slice of life moment can't go on forever. The Wind Master and the Earth Master show up and they get talking, and it turns out the Wind Master has been basically cursed since birth. And there's the Reverend of Lost Words. So he's being haunted. Yeah, the Reverend of Empty Words. I'm sorry, not Lost Words. I knew there was something off with that. So he's being hunted by this very terrible curse, and Shilan has been encountered with 2 of them. So, of course, with him doing God knows what, the Wind Master comes to him and is just like, can you help me with this? This has been haunting me since birth. It stopped when I ascended, but now it seems to be haunting me again. And so this starts the next arc, which we only get the very start of. In this one, it's literally the start of them putting up the teleportation spell and going there, and them figuring out this is not where they were supposed to be going, and suspicions start flying. Why have they gone to this different place? What happened? Was something messed with, or did someone in the party of 4 mess with something? So for this book, we're basically left on a cliffhanger. And this is another one I would give probably 4 stars to. I thought this was another great one. And there was a lot of intense stuff. I thought the arcs were really good in this one. And we're getting a lot of development. Once again, we're getting a lot. This had a lot more like slice of life moments than serious moments, and I really liked that. There was a break since like the last one, and like the beginning of this was pretty serious, talking about, you know, the terrible things that happened with Shanli Kingdom. So that was a nice change of pace. So that wraps up my thoughts for here. These are all that I have for my notes. Do I have anything special? No, just that Shilan has such a good heart and wants to help everyone, even at the cost of himself. And he is so dedicated to his cultivation that he literally impales himself. This happened during the curse of the Yao flowers. And then, yeah, the world building, it really shows no matter how prosperous a kingdom is, natural disaster will always win. Also, the terrible divide between the rich and the poor. And I've got some scenarios, but like, you know, that doesn't matter. So basically, yeah, that kind of wraps up all my thoughts. If you liked this, drop a like on the video to show that you liked it. And please, if you've read this or have thoughts on this at all, please drop a comment down below. Like I say in every video, I do love to read other people's interpretations and their thoughts on stuff that I read, because a lot of the times I can very easily misinterpret stuff, or I can look over stuff. Like I mentioned, I overlook stuff until I read it for a second time, so I would love for you to point out some things that I might have missed that you caught. So thank you for everyone who watched the video. I hope you at least got something out of this, and I hope to see you again in another video. Bye!